could put up the slide with the names and email addresses, then we can go into groups after I've said something. But if you could put it up on the screen to share, it would be good. Okay, let's get started. Mubashir, are you hearing me?
Yes, David. Yes, I can hear you.
That's good. If every time I call you, you sort of indicate, I'm just frightened you might not hear me because I might have cut out somehow. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. We're going to start. We don't have anywhere near the whole class. We've only got 17 at the moment. We should have 115. And this, of course, is one of the problems that we have and that I'm going to talk about. But firstly, let me introduce myself. I am Professor David Faulkner. I'm Dean of Magna Carta College. And it's the first time that I have jumped into teaching one of these classes which has 115 people in it, because I'm very aware that we have not been getting the good results from the students that we would like to do. And we have had a lot of discussion inside as to why that is the case. And in my view, it clearly is the case, because it is possible to lecture to 115 people, but it isn't possible to teach that number, because the number is so large that some of the quieter people won't make much effort, and they probably won't even turn up to the sessions. And consequently, when it comes to making the submissions that they make will be of very poor quality. So we're trying to do something about that, and we're going to divide you all into groups, and you will see on your screen, I hope, a whole list of the groups which I will talk about in a minute. But firstly, say a little bit about myself. I am a pretty ancient academic who has been through teaching at Oxford and Cambridge and London and Warwick and various others in my 30 years career. And I know, I think, what I'm talking about in terms of lecturing. I am much, much less strong, however, in terms of electronics. And fortunately, I have a colleague, Mubashir Ehsan, who is very much younger and very much cleverer so far as making collaborate work and Blackboard and so forth. So I will be relying on him. And if you ever have any trouble in getting access for any reason, he will be able to help you. I'll just ask him to say a sentence or two about himself now, so that you've heard of him, and he will be doing quite a lot of the activity work with you in workshops after the lectures, and I will be doing all of the lectures. So perhaps you could introduce yourself, Mubashir.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. So I will be basically coordinating with you with regards to your assignments, with regards to any support that you require. I've been entrusted in terms of teaching business as well, and I'm really fortunate to be part of this, program and to help you out through this. Thank you.
Thanks, Mubashir. Now, I'm sorry about what happened on Monday when we should have started. I have to be honest about it. I saw you had a very tactful thing from Marta, which essentially didn't say what happened, but said, we apologize for what did happen. We use a carousel system, as I suspect you all know, and that means that we have quite a lot of people, and from in this case, they will have done one or two or three of the modules earlier, so they won't need to have the induction session. The fourth cohort, which was to join, should have been made registered by Bucks University, but the person who was due to do it went off on holiday and doesn't get back till next week. And so there may well be some more students joining us, maybe 20 or 30. I'm not sure, we'll have to wait and see. But since they didn't come up with any of the registrations, we were not in a position where the people who would need the induction would get the induction, and you would have merely heard the same thing all over again. This led to a little bit of chaos at the time, and on Monday, therefore, you were left without the induction session that was due and the introduction session, which I was due to give after that. So we cancelled that, and we probably didn't do everything we should have done in order to make sure that you understood what was actually happening. So it may well be that from next week we will have fourth cohort. I'll believe it when I see it. So we'll just have to wait and see. So we're going to work in groups is the key bit of the information. And that is so that we can make sure that people do actually engage with the course. And engage is a strong word. It really means not just sit there and perhaps fall asleep after the first hour or two. And we have the groups here, and we'll try and show them to you, because a little bit later this morning, you'll go off into these groups in breakout rooms, and they'll be in groups of 10, and you will get to know each other, hopefully, and we'll have one shortish activity just to see how things can work well together. That's my first bit of introduction. The second bit is to say there is no need for a lecture tomorrow, so you won't have to have two lectures one day after the other, which is not ideal anyway. So we will go back to the course outline that we already have, namely that the first lecture will take place now, this morning, between 10 and 12:30, and the next lecture, the second one, will take place on Monday between 10 and 12:30. That will be lecture 2 and so forth. Now, so you can discard Marta's thing that you may well have got a message. I'm not sure whether it was this morning or yesterday saying that there would be one on Friday, but there is no need for that. We can merely say that we didn't have the induction course. And no doubt when the fourth cohort joins, they will either present the induction course just to those newcomers, or it will be recorded, and they will get all the information they need from that. So we're back online with the course outline, and the course outline I will go through with you in a little bit of detail. You will find it on module materials before lecture 1, and it's possible that for personal reasons in some that things can happen not exactly as they're meant to happen, in which case I will adjust the course outline, and it won't be exactly as it is now, but I hope we'll go right through and do it exactly as it is, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So let's have a look at the groups first so that you will know which groups you will be in. Let me see, Mubashir, we've got, can we make those slightly larger? Because they only cover half of the page. Yes, I think if you made E rather bigger, they would become a bit larger. So let's go through first of all. Group 1 we have therefore at students from 1 to 10. Now, if we have anybody who is in group 1, then they should note down those. Perhaps you can take a screenshot or whatever, but it will anyway be up on module materials, and you will then have time during this next couple of hours to make contact by email or in whatever way is most convenient for you. And we have nominated the first person in the group as the group leader. That may change. It may well be that Peter Africa, who's down as the first group leader, is not here at the moment. I don't know whether he is or whether he isn't. If I look at the list, I see that he isn't, I think. Oh, but in which case, then somebody else should take the lead on that. We will see by the end of today whether or not Ah, good. I'm in group 1 that we've got from Lana. So Lana, you can be the leader then, if, by which it means that try and contact any of the others in your group, because I'd like to think that over the next 10 weeks, those groups get to know each other well and used to working well together, which of course is part of the aim of the course anyway. And it's not just listening to lectures or occasionally making an interjection. So Lana, if you can try and contact the others, if they don't turn up sometime during this meeting, please send out sometime during this afternoon, in my terms anyway, a note to them telling them what's happened and asking them to start operating with you. So then we move on to group 2, and that's great. Thanks, Lana. Excellent. Well, Bashir, if we can move on to group 2. Yes, group 2, we have Michael Arlott as group leader, whom we would say the same to. Do we have Michael Arlott here at all? Nope, looks like not. Group 3, do we have anybody from group 2? I think we do, don't we?
From group 3, that's myself, Lewis.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, as soon as anybody identifies themselves from a particular group, then they are the leader, so to speak. It's really a coordination exercise and a great challenge in leadership, because if the other people haven't turned up, then we have an issue in relation to attendance, so to speak. So moving on from group 2 to group 3, we have group 3, Lewis Carla, is that? Yes.
Lewis Carter, yes. Yep.
Yes, excellent. Good. Well, you're actually there, nominated as the group leader. You were there anyway. Then we have Ellie, and I'll probably mess up this pronunciation, Ellie de Torosia, as group leader there, but she will not be here either. So if there's anybody in group 3, perhaps they could identify themselves now. Marta, excellent. Good, Marco. Well, then you're in charge of group 3, and group 4. Yeah, group 4 was Ellie. I mentioned that. Do we have anybody from group 4? Perhaps not. Then we get to group 5, which has, oh, sorry, it is group 4, I guess. That's fine. You will be able to see off the screen which one it actually is. Group 5, as you can see, we've got as group leader nominally Jing Ho. And if there is anyone in group 5 who can take on the leadership of that, that will be good. Then we have group 6, which was Anita Jaiswal, but it may be that she, oh, Aisha Iqbal in group 5. Excellent, Aisha. So you're the group leader. And then group 6. Do we have Fatima? Good, and Fatima is leader of group 6. Move on to 7. You could look at the names there, and if anybody is in group 7 that you can identify. Do we have anybody from group 7? If not, they may come later. Ah, yes. Lubni, that's good, excellent. So Lubni is head of group 7, lovely. And then group 8. Can we move up from group 8? We've got nominally again, but they're probably not here. Abirami Manoj. I can't see that amongst the numbers. So anybody from group 8, perhaps you could identify? No? Then group 9. Anyone from group 9 present at the moment? Group 10. Group 11. And there's just a few at group 12. Ah, good. Group 11. Okay. Maruk, yep. So you're the head of Group 11. That's great. Okay, so now we have the groups. We don't have the members here today in the most case, but at least we have the leaders. And if the leaders can therefore, for today, when you're going to have to break out in groups, you'll be having to work by yourself unless you can find some other people who turn up over the next period of time. That's good. Angela, Monica, Group 8, that's good. We already have that. So amongst yourselves, do the best you can from that list to organize yourself to be able to do it. It's often the case in the first session that this does happen, and it's a problem, but it's not one that anybody's yet managed to conquer. Now, if you went to university in the normal sort of way and you turned up for the first class, I think it's reasonable to assume that 100% of the people in that class would arrive and would at least be there for the first session. It may be that they won't all be there subsequently for every session. They may get sick, they may be late because of buses, there may be all sorts of reasons, but they will certainly be there at the beginning. Now, this is not the case typically with online learning. Online learning is only as effective as face-to-face learning if people take part in the sort of session we are having now. You listen to me, you respond to me, you talk, you disagree or agree or learn, whatever it may be, but you're there and we can actually interact and get to know each other to some extent, just as you would do if you're in face-to-face learning. Now, what I'm trying is a bit of an experiment that I don't know if it's been tried previously in online learning, but we have put up, and Mubashir will tell you where you can find it, one paragraph which we want you to sign that says that you will attend at least 80% of the lectures and workshops. So that means that you put in your diary, in my UK time, 10 to 12:30 on Mondays and Thursdays for every week between now and the next 10 weeks. And that doesn't move. If somebody wants to do something else with your time, you say, well, I can't manage 10 to 12:30, but any rest of the time, absolutely no problem. But you really make it a priority. Now, you will have paid quite a lot of money to come on the course, but you won't get anything out of it if you just listen to the lectures. You could get all of the lectures anyway without paying any money. You could just have gone online and done a MOOCs lecture, which you could get for free. It wouldn't be the same. But the difference between that and online learning is you've got people like me and Mubashir actively concerned that you pass the course, that you actually do present submissions, working WC 1, 2, and 3 up to the standard that the university requires. And getting up to that standard doesn't just happen. It only happens if both people in MCC, that's myself and Mubashir and possibly others, plus yourselves, can actively look at the things that we have to deal with and learn from and apply it to the questions that will be asked in the submissions, and then make assignments that are up to standard. Now, we have had quite a few people in the past who have failed and have to resit. This is bad news for them, it's bad news for us, and bad news for the university. It means doing things all over again and is costing extra. It'll cost you more, it'll cost us more in terms of the putting together of resources and then putting people up into the university to be assessed again. And it's not what needs to happen. We need to get 100% of you through the course first time, but that will only happen, I can say absolutely for certain, it will only happen if you actually turn up in these sessions. And obviously 17 of you have, but let's remember there are 115 who have signed on and presumably paid for the course. So that means that there are over 80 that just haven't turned up. Now, those, if they don't turn up over the next 2.5 hours, are people who are at risk of having to resit because they won't have taken advantage of what's being offered in terms of the various debates and workshops and lectures that are provided. The lectures are perhaps less important because you can get them recorded. But the workshops are crucially important because that's where you make a contribution with your group, which will prepare you for being able to actually complete your assignments effectively and up to standard. So we have a paragraph which asks you to tick or to sign rather and send back to us to say that yes, you agree with the policies of MCC and you will abide by them, and I've written it out in bold, that you will attend 80% of the lectures. And if you don't do that, we're not going to say, oh, you've failed because you've only come to 70% or you haven't come to 50%. There is no legal obligation to actually do this. It's merely that you want to pass the course and we want you to pass the course. But we can only work with you to do that if you turn up at these meetings. And there's no doubt that's the case. We have a lot of experience in this, and the people who don't actually attend don't do very well, not surprisingly, because it's quite difficult. It's at a level that is degree level, and unless you take advantage of the teaching, then you don't get the teaching. You merely get some PowerPoint slides, but not at a focused answer to the assignments that will actually be set. So those are the major points that I would like to make prior to talking about the course itself. I'll now talk about the course itself, and for that I'll ask Mubashir if he would to put up the course outline. Could you do that, Mubashir?
Yeah, I'm just
Take a minute or two. The point of the course outline is so that you know what's going to happen over the next 10 weeks, and then you can make, thank you very much, you can make adjustments to that. Now, obviously, you won't be able to read it all rapidly, so we'll scroll down fairly rapidly. We've got a paragraph on the course rationale, and if you could scroll down, Mubashir. We then have the key, the learning outcomes, which you don't need to read those at the moment. You can come back to that, and they will have been prescribed by the BTEC people, namely Pearson. Obviously everything is focused towards making sure that you achieve those learning outcomes. Then move on. I mentioned group work, and I'll just go rapidly through what I've already told you. Starting at 10, or roughly, the groups will be made out of the total class, 10 members per group. The leader to be nominated, and we've changed them already because obviously the leaders are the people who actually turned up. Then I will give a lecture, and at roughly 11:15, I suppose, you would move on to the breakout rooms, and Mubashir will help you to know how to do that. You'll get to know each other, you'll exchange emails and maybe phone numbers or however you choose to relate to each other. And you will choose companies to analyze. There's two ways of doing that. You can either take a company that we all know about, whether it's Google or Amazon or whatever, really well-known ones, Microsoft, or you could choose a company that you work for, which will be just as good because you'll understand that one. That's perhaps less obvious unless you can, because if you've got 10 in a group, you'll have maybe 10 companies that that you know. So, but I don't really mind so long as you've got the substance of knowledge, either from the internet, which it'll be if you do it on Microsoft or whoever, or from the company you're working for. And you can use that to do the activity exercise, which you'll see as the next bullet point, and then you'll move back into a plenary session where the tutor, that's either myself or Mubashir, will select a particular group to present what we've been able to do. Those of you who are very good at putting together PowerPoint slides fast, well, you may be able to do that. If you work a little ahead of time, you can have done some work on this before you actually arrive on either the Monday or the Thursday, and then we can have some presentations. It doesn't really matter. That is not the aim of the game. The aim of the game is to get your point across, and whatever the point you're able to do, even if some of it is merely written by somebody who can write legibly and then put into presentation form, that's absolutely fine. But we want to just see how best you can do it on the basis of you were working together for, say, 3/4 of an hour or what it might be, to look at the activity. Now, moving on to the key text, then, there are 2 books, and those are they by Tid and Besant and by Trott, and they are both on your module materials. You will be able to find that on Blackboard, and since you've joined a course on innovation, you'll be glad to see that the names of the books are Managing Innovation and Innovation Management and New Product Development. So both of those books are totally focused on what you're studying. So I would strongly recommend that you read those books rather than look at some more specialized papers that you might see if you want to on the internet. Basically, those key texts will give you what you need, and they're both extremely good. I've read the books, and they're all you'll need to be able to do extremely good assignments. And remember, the assignments, as you already know, are the key thing in this exercise, because that's your only interaction with the university. So let's move on a bit, Mubashir. Now, here is the course outline. Now, week 1, we are at the moment in lecture 1, and within the next half hour or so, I will start on that. And we'll talk about creativity and innovation and so forth. You can read about it in Tid and Besant. Move on, and there's some stuff in Trott in it as well. And there's some further reading, which you may at this stage not get down to doing, but if you do, then that's good. And then we move into an activity which says, using the mapping innovation diagram in the lecture, add to each segment to illustrate as many of the subgroups as you can that could be included in the chosen company. For an example, blah, blah, blah. So I won't read out the subsequent ones because that'll take too long, and you have plenty of time to be able to read it anyway. Move on, please. Then we go on to week 2, which is this Monday now. We won't be meeting on tomorrow, as I said, and I'll have to send out an announcement, and you should look for announcements. Either Mubashir or I will just put a brief one to say that instead of lecture 2 tomorrow, we will have it as was previously in the course outline. And the rest of the course outline is exactly the same. We've got lecture 2 on innovation mapping, and now you'll see the same format for all of them. I won't go through it all in detail, but just move fairly fast from that, Mubashir. Lecture 3, successes and failures in innovation, and then lecture 4. In week 3, we've got building an innovation organization, and lecture 5, which is sources of innovation, and lecture 6. Now, before we get to lecture 6 here, we have to make a submission here between week 4 and week 5, and we will use those 2 weeks as preparation for that, where we'll go into exactly what's required and make sure that you're able to take what you've learned from the first 5 lectures and use it in the way in which you present 1,500 words. You will find again in Blackboard the assignment brief, which you must read carefully, because when people are marking the brief, they mark it more on the basis of has he or she answered the question than they do on other information that you tell them that you've been very clever in understanding, but that doesn't totally relate to the question. So read the briefs very, very carefully. You've got 2 weeks there in which we will be available to help you But fundamentally, you will be working to try and put together your ideas. When you've done that and you've submitted CW, that's coursework 1, then that's part of your, an important 40% part of your time that has been achieved. So you're well down the way now. When we get to lecture 6, which is on technology, we will deal with that on Monday, 9th of May. Then lecture 7 will be on innovation networks on the Thursday, but mostly we have Monday and Thursday. And then moving on to the next one, we have week 6, where we have new product development, obviously crucially important, and level and lecture 9, which deals with culture, on the Thursday, and then lecture 10, which is the last lecture in week 7. Then again, we move on to preparing for coursework 2. Preparation for coursework 2 in week 8 and week 9, and that's a 2,000-word presentation or 2,000-word essay, if you like. And you'll have quite a lot of time, 3 weeks or so, to be able to do that. And that is for 50% of the total. And that we will also do CW3, which is a much shorter one, 200 words on a number of topics. And that doesn't need so much preparation. And that will complete the course at the end of May. So assuming that nothing happens to make us change any of that, that's what the course outline looks like. If there is any need to change it, Mubashir or I will make those amendments to the course outline, which will remain on the module materials part of Blackboard, and you can perpetually use it. And for those of you who want to know ahead exactly what's going to happen, then the course outline is the first place that you'd go. Other places where we will deal with you, of course, will be by making announcements. Again, that will be on Blackboard, and that's easily done. And as I've just said, I will make an announcement, or Mubashir will, after 12:30 to indicate that no, we won't be doing a lecture on the Friday. The next lecture will be on the Monday. So that's the course outline, and that's where we are. Please, I'm sure all of you will, fill in the thing to indicate the sheet that requires your tick or your signature to indicate that you will turn up to these meetings, because they will make all the difference between being able to really learn an enormous amount from this course and feeling that, well, okay, I've done the course, but I'm not sure I know that much about it, which will be the case, unfortunately, if you just listen to the lectures, because you'll forget the lectures. Quite a lot of research has been done, and we can go back in this to Plato or Confucius, possibly. It's nobody's quite sure who said it, but they're supposed to have said that if you hear something, then you forget it within a day. If you hear something, but you also get some visual recognition, I mean, in modern times, those would be PowerPoint slides, then you may remember it for a few more days. But you really only actually learn something if you do it. And that's the third stage. And of course, if you don't turn up to these lectures, then you won't do it. You'll only have the first two. So the chances that you will be able to go into preparing your assignments effectively are far, far less. But of course, I'm talking to the converted because you're here. Those of you who have volunteered to be the leaders, please get in touch with the other 9 who may be there and emphasize to them how important it is that we get the group system to work, because it's good for you, and it certainly will be good for all of your contributions made through your assignments and so forth. So on that point, I will now move on and start the lecture. Mubashir, perhaps you can put up lecture 1, could you? Okay. So, lecture 1 is basically about innovation, as you could imagine, and is an introduction. Next slide, please. Or can I make it? Can I make it? No, I can't. Well, Bashir, you'll have to do the slides because you put it up, I think. So we can move on from that because we've talked about the agenda already in the course outline. Next slide. Okay, thank you for the chat on that. I do understand that most of you will have work and that sometimes it'll get in the way. And so long as you do the best you can, then we are recording. Mubashir, did you remember to record this? Mubashir?
Yes, yes, David.
We are recording, yep.
Yes, David, we are. Yes, we are.
That's great. Okay, so those of you who for any reason can't turn up, the lectures will all be there anyway under materials, but the session will be recorded. So please don't just let it go by. Do actually say, okay, I missed that one. Now I'll put a couple of hours on one side and I'll listen to what happened. So that would be a good thing. It's possible to change the group members. If you can get people who will agree to change with you, then yes, I'm quite happy because I don't know any of you anyway. So if you need the next couple of weeks to be able to adjust your group membership, I don't have any problem with that. So long as when you have done, you tell Mubashir and he's able to make the adjustments to the groups. I mean, the aim of the groups isn't to mean that if you're doing this with a friend, if you're doing it with a friend, you'd like to be in the same group, and that makes every sense. So yes, that can be done by organizing it with Mubashir. In fact, if you don't find any, he can probably offer you alternative people. If those people don't know they're in the groups anyway, then they won't be particularly committed to it. But if you're going to change a group, please do it today, because we don't want weeks to go by and people to do that. So yes, if you want to change your group membership, that's fine, and Mubashir will make sure that we keep up to date on that. How can we contact the other members from? You have all of their emails on that sheet. So contacting via email is the first way to do it. I imagine, Mubashir, can I take Jenny? Yes, but let's deal with it now. Let's wait until 12:30 and perhaps you can talk to Mubashir about it later on. Yep. So let me continue with the lecture, and I'll just go through this fairly rapidly because most of it is really noted in that way. Now, that's interesting. I'll bring it up later. The importance of innovation. Virtually all of the economic growth that occurred since the 18th century is attributable to innovation. Apparently, Professor Baumol said in the early 20th century, 21st century. And it's probably true. I mean, if you're going to have a new product, you have to be an innovator. There's a survey report found that the innovators outpace their peers' growth by 60%, and there's other work that shows that they outpace their profits as well. Innovation certainly pays, and it pays when it comes to growth, value of the firm, and survival in highly competitive industries. Next slide. Mubashir, you're not moving fast enough. Yeah, can we, as I move on, because we've got a lot of slides, can we, as soon as I say move slide or next slide, then if we can move straight on, that would be good.
David, there is just a lag, that's why, because I'm changing. Yeah. There is a lag.
Okay. Yeah. There is one other thing. There are some notes that are frequently given to the lecturer on the bottom There isn't on this particular slide, but there are on other ones. If that can be deleted, then it won't confuse people. I think you can get PowerPoint, well, rather you can, yes, whether it's PowerPoint or whether it's Blackboard, I'm not quite sure, but I think if you went on to the next slide, you'll find there's quite a lot of notes. Oh, go on to the next slide. Next slide. You see there are some notes underneath, and they are meant to be for the lecturer only. And in the event that they're left there, they're extremely confusing for the reader. He doesn't know whether to read the notes or read the slides, so to speak. So if you can find a way on Blackboard, I don't know whether you can, Mubashir, do you know how we can delete those? I know we can do it on Teams, but we're not on Teams.
So David, the only way we can do it is by re-uploading, downloading the file again, and deleting, and then uploading the documents again.
Well, we'll do that by Monday, and with this one, we'll just carry on as we are. So
all right.
So let's put it back to where we are, and just so that the audience, so to speak, don't bother to read the stuff at the bottom. I may well read it to you, but just concentrate on the points that are made on the slides themselves. So obviously innovation's a successful exploitation of new ideas, and it's a question of working outside the box, as the modern expression. It's not just good ideas, it's a combination of good ideas, motivated staff, and instinctive understanding of what your customer wants. So Richard Branson, very famous entrepreneur, said some years ago, and that's certainly true. Next slide. Now this demonstrates that there are many different types of innovation. There's not just new products. The slide shows that innovation is actually a number of ideas. We tend to think of innovations as being new inventions, as with product innovation, but as can be seen from the slide, there are many other innovation types, going through process innovation, organizational innovation, management innovation, production innovation, different ways of producing, marketing innovation, and service innovation. So there's not just one form. So next slide. In other words, it's not just about ideas, it's about people, management, process, control, motivation, opportunities, sharing, reward, and leadership. Essentially, to achieve an innovative product, you need an innovative organization as well. And that's a very pertinent comment, because you don't just suddenly get a new idea. There are some organizations that are very innovative and others that aren't. So why is innovation important? Innovation and market performance seem to be closely related. New products help capture and retain market share. Short life cycles and global competition and knowledge make innovation essential, and constant change benefits the innovative business, which sums up some of the key advantages of innovation. Innovation creates value and therefore, of course, profits. Next slide. We look at some of the key 20th century innovations. Well, you can read all those. It doesn't need me to go right through them. It's hard to imagine a world without these innovations, although some of them aren't really all that old. I mean, take the smartphone, for example. All young people are dominated, it seems to me, by their smartphones, but they weren't around 10 years ago, or maybe 15. I'm not sure what the date of the first smartphone was. Does it tell us there? Yes, the 2000s, certainly over the 21st century. These are all innovation products, but in truth, innovation can also be, as we said in the previous slide, processes, systems, models, etc. Next slide. The market leaders of 2011, how have things changed since then? Well, just looking at the first one, cell phones, Nokia. Nokia is no longer the market leader, but quite a lot of the others are still well up. The slide illustrates how well companies that appear to be at the forefront of innovation can drop back very quickly as new ideas are developed. Two very clear changes in the list above are the end of dominance. Just a second, I have a Okay. End of dominance of Nokia in the cell phone market and the move away in computing from the Microsoft Intel dominance. It's true that BMW is still a major force in cars, but the world is also being challenged in the future. Cars are more likely to be shared rather than bought, and probably self-driven, and certainly electric. The electric car decade has certainly begun. So next slide. How do we measure innovation then? Well, this slide shows some of the most innovative outfits on the basis of the number of patents that they've actually registered. IBM is the largest. Traditional measurements often look for investment spending and the number of patents awarded to a firm as a measurement, and it's a pretty good one. So you can see IBM, Samsung, Google, Intel, and so forth. Facebook rather less, but nevertheless 189 patents. Can't be bad. So on we go. Does it matter? This chart doesn't show cause and effect. It does illustrate how competitive the market is and the need for constant innovation in order to remain competitive. IBM has the most patents, as you saw from the previous slide, versus the major competitors, yet has trebled the net margin despite the heavy expenditure. So if you spend more and you are more innovative, then you tend to make more money and to be more successful. So innovation isn't just a nice thing to have, it's vital if you're going to be a successful company. So next slide. You'll find that in management teaching, lots of simple ways of trying to remember things are put up on slides. You don't need to remember them all, but some of them are useful. This is called the ICE dip, in which it says step 1 and 2 are inspiration, then clarification, evaluation, distillation, incubation, perspiration. Well, okay, if you can find that useful, that's fine. I'm not sure I do particularly. The next one, though, is very important. This is put together by a professor called Amabile, and she talks about 3 things that really lead to innovation, and that's the overlap between the 3 circles. You need expertise. You don't get brilliant innovations. You might get ideas that just come to you, but you need the expertise to be able to think up these ideas. And then you need creative thinking skills, and again, that doesn't happen. And thirdly, you need motivation. You need to want to do it. You need to feel, I must come up with something new in this area that's getting quite old. So that is a good slide that is very well repeated time and again in on the internet and in papers and so forth. Amabile, remember that name. And that may not seem brilliant. On the other hand, it does clarify the key things that are needed: the motivation, the expertise, and the skills that you have to actually come with it. So let's move on to more creativity, because the difference between creativity and innovation is fairly clear. It's clear to me anyway, and maybe it will be to you. You could say that the person is creative, and that's fine. You know what creative people are like. And innovation, however, is what creative people do. They actually come up with something that can be marketed or that can improve the way in which things are done. So creation you start with and you move on from innovation out of that. You can't really have innovation without a bit of creativity, and so that's how it works. So the following formalized and well-known methods and processes combine creativity and creative problem solving. And here's 3. There's a thing called TIPS, which is Theory of Inventive Problem Solving. If you find that useful, go on the internet and see some detail about TIPS. And then there's 2 other quite well-known things, and we're going to ask you to try and do a bit of this yourself at some stage: mind mapping and brainstorming. There's lots of different things you can get at. Next slide, please. From the sources of new ideas, and as you can see, if you go around, that goes from technology to, well, I won't read them all out, you can read them, but every area of a business and its environment gives you the possibility of new ideas. So next slide. If we look at the environment and we look at the demographic side, we can find two areas where women come up with new ideas. For example, in the environment, health consciousness leads to not just Kraft's free fat ice cream, but lots of other things that you meet in terms of advertisements for this will improve your health rather than destroy it. Green consciousness being another one, which leads to change in solvent-based water to from solvent-based to water-based paints, and to taking lead out of paints, for example. Increasing crime leads to new security devices, and that's quite a growing market. And of course, electric cars, which I mentioned earlier. So there's areas where lots of innovations are coming about. They're also stimulated by various demographic things. For instance, aging of the population leads to all sorts of things, one of which is, of course, more residential care insurance and residential care homes, of course. Both parents working, which is typical these days in this generation of middle-aged people or even youngish people, leads to new types of convenience foods because they don't have the time to do the old cooking stuff. Baby boomers, that's guys in their 50s and 60s these days, having their own children leads to new types of family car, the Renault Espace, and having certainly, well, don't need to go on to that. You can understand what it means. Next slide, please. Just a quick comment. Albert Einstein, everybody knows about, of course, problems cannot be solved by thinking within the framework within which the problems were created. Again, it's like that old cliche, thinking outside the box, but it's absolutely true. And of course, what about this thinking? Next slide, please. Left and right brain. I don't know whether you've met this, but the left brain, and I always think it should be the right brain because it should be sort of rational, but it isn't. That's the left brain, which deals with symbols, words, logic, judgment, mathematics, speaking. And then there's the right brain, which is more emotional, sensory images, dreaming, feeling, intuition, visualization, certainly emotional things. And creative thinking, of course, is how you put the brain together. Well, you can't do much from that, but it's worth remembering the left and right brain approaches. Next slide, please. So how do we get group creativity in order to generate innovation? Well, there are several different ways of doing it. Needs or problem identification based on asking people what problems there are in particular existing products. Attitude listing major attitudes and considering how to modify each one. Brainstorming, as I mentioned before, stimulate ideas in a group. And in a non-evaluative way, the essence of brainstorming is that you don't say, oh, that's a silly idea, because people won't come up with ideas then. And lateral thinking, which is elicit ideas using tools which bypass a vertical rational logic. We'll talk more about lateral thinking later when we talk about Edward de Bono. If we just look at some of these that were listed just above in a bit more detail, then let's look at group creativity. I've done that one. I'm on the next slide. Yeah, that's it. Problem identification. Well, the process consumers are asked about needs, both quantitative and qualitatively, and then you evaluate. So what can we do about it? How can we make things better? Next slide. Another attribute listing, and that deals with a toothbrush example, which well, I don't think we need to go into that in great detail, but you can look at it afterwards, see the ways in which I suppose people have moved from ordinary toothbrushes to electric toothbrushes. And there may be many other ways you can think about that might work if you were working for Colgate. If we look at the next slide, basic rules of brainstorming, the essence of brainstorming, as I just touched on, no criticism whatsoever, freewheeling is welcome. The wackier the idea, the better. The more ideas, the better. And building on others' ideas is encouraged. So I've done lots of brainstorming in my life, and you have to do just that. Now, in most cases, when you're working with other people, you don't do that. You actually listen to another idea and then you find ways of picking holes of it or adjusting it. With brainstorming, the more ideas you come up with, even if you throw 90% of them away, the better the brainstorming exercise. Then you have evaluation. You evaluate it. It's well, evaluating something is always depending upon the criteria that you actually use to do that. So next slide. This deals with a thing called synectics. And here you're dealing with with a metaphor. It's a strange word. It's a word you won't meet very often. And I have to admit that when I was preparing these slides, I had to look it up. And in essence, it's really trying to find a metaphor that will deal with the issue that you've got and to see whether that metaphor could actually work. For instance, if you're trying to help people with running, then look at animals, take a cheetah, which is a very, very fast runner, and see how its legs actually operate and see whether you could take that into teaching people how to run faster, becoming a Bolt type person. Examine the state of the problem, select a metaphor and use the metaphor to generate ideas. And there may be something about the way in which the cheetah's energy is channeled through its legs and so forth that could be transferred to the athlete. So this is synectics. Again, if you find that an interesting subject, look it up on Wikipedia and so forth. And it's an interesting way of generating creativity, which is really what we're talking about at the moment. So next slide. Here is some example of the metaphors. Personal, put yourself in the shoes of the object. Think how tired a door hinge becomes from operating and shutting. Describe how it feels to use a particular object. Imagine the sensation of being in an open-top sports car. Make comparisons with similar information technology. Compare a problem of irregular paper flow in an office to the flow of a river, for example. Fantasy stuff. How in our widest fantasies would a new alcoholic drink look and taste? I don't know how valuable synectics is, but it's a thing that is done by people who are concerned to develop creativity. Next slide, please. So, ways of enhancing personal creativity. First of all, accept there may well not be a right answer. That doesn't necessarily apply. There may be right answers to something or other, but let's assume there aren't. Don't follow the rules. Be foolish, meaning do things that aren't obvious. Ask what if all the time. Think outside the box or your area. Go for ambiguity and believe, yes, this idea isn't necessarily daft. I mean, if you went back to the time when they invented cars, I understand that there was a time when they wondered whether cars should operate on petrol or whether they should work like steam engines. And somehow the petrol won out. And then diesel came in, and now it's bad, and we've moved on to electric cars. Maybe we'll go on from that to nitrogen-driven, or who knows. But it doesn't follow that where we are is where we will be if we've got creative people working in BMW and all the other leading car companies. So next slide. The best way to get a good idea is to get a lot of ideas. Change your question, e.g. IBM should have thought in terms of solutions to problems, not computing hardware. Avoid workplace with a culture of uniformity. Yeah, I'm not bothered about the IBM bit, but certainly uniformity is the opposite of innovation. And therefore, if you work for a company in which people use the word bureaucracy quite a bit, then you've probably not got a very innovative company, because bureaucracy, although it's necessary up at a degree to get administrative things delivered, it tends, in terms of a mindset, to work against innovation. And the typical bureaucrat tends to think in terms of, if you come up with a new idea, oh yes, but, and then they'll come up with the problem rather than the opportunity. Next slide. Don't follow the rules. We make rules based on reasons that make sense, and we follow them, and things change, but the rules don't. And well, we all know how that works, and it's very difficult to find rules that will adapt almost instantly when things change. It doesn't happen. We continue to follow the rules as they were. Next slide. Examples of rule-breaking creativity. Well, I won't go through those because we've spent quite a lot of time already, so you can read through those. Next slide. Next slide. Examples of creativity in terms of World War I military designers. They borrowed a design from Cubist art to create more efficient camouflage patterns for tanks and guns. That's quite interesting. Neumann, who invented game theory, used knowledge from poker playing to develop it, and economics developed quite a bit as a result of that. Next slide. Think outside your area. Yep, well, we've already said enough on that, I think. Next slide. If you tell people where to go but not how to get there, you'd be amazed at the results, so General George Patton said. Next slide. In the workplace, non-hierarchical organizations tend to be more innovative than hierarchical ones. The idea of a non-hierarchical organization is, of course, that if you've got a bureaucratic set of things that need to be done, then it can lead to complete chaos. But on the other hand, if the points of creativity are in many different positions in the organization, then it may end up as more creative, and many companies have found that it's therefore a different and a better way to organize. Next slide. Another thing is that creativity can be learned. If your organization doesn't make use of specific creative techniques, why not introduce them? Be willing to think of wacky thoughts and be constantly receptive. Creativity comes from most unlikely sources. The ones that I've always quoted over the years was Post-it pads. Post-it pads were apparently, they emerged out of the wish to try and create some sort of glue that would be effective, and what they came up with was something that was effective, but it was also easy to peel off and use again. And Post-it pads have become very dominant, but nobody actually tried to invent them. The creativity came when people had the light bulb going off in their head to say, yeah, well, it doesn't work for that, but it will work for other things. And similarly, Viagra was something that was researched for high blood pressure, but of course, as everybody knows, it turned out to be something that overcomes male impotence. Next slide. So we've got 4 types of hidden innovation, perhaps, that's identified. Type 1, innovations that are published, such as new processes in oil exploration, and new manufacturing process. Type 2, non-scientific innovations such as new business models or organizational forms. And again, that comes out of what I've just been talking about, which is the non-hierarchical organization. Type 3, which is innovation created through combination. 2 current ideas are put together, such as internet banking or online learning. And out of that can come a lot of things. many different uses and apps, as we use the term these days. Data type 4, day-to-day small-scale innovation that occurs in business but is not publicized or developed elsewhere in business, what we call incremental innovations. And there are a lot of those happening all the time. They're not disruptive to existing ways of doing things, but they do just improve things, often put together by the people who are actually using them on a day-to-day basis and can see a better way of doing things. Next slide. And here we've got Southwest Airlines, and I'll read you the notes on that. Southwest Airlines in the United States became one of the pioneers of cheap, low-cost air travel by focusing not on competing airlines as their major competition, but on car transport. They examined their business model, looking for ways to reduce cost and improve efficiency so they could be a viable alternative to someone driving to their destination. One of the major costs of running an airline is utilization, or lack of it. If every minute a plane sits on the tarmac, it's costing money and losing revenue. So turning the aircraft around from unloading passengers to reloading and taking off again takes around 20 minutes. Now, the nearest EasyJet and Ryanair get to this is 40 minutes. How did Southwest Airlines do it? Well, they studied the best in the world at fast turnaround and looked at Formula One car racing to design their plane turnaround process. Very interesting, because if you see Formula One, speed at which they, when cars get into the pit, manage to change the wheels in seconds. Now, if you ever tried changing a wheel, it'll probably take you, well, a lot longer than seconds. Next slide, please. This deals with creative destruction, which was an expression developed by Schumpeter back in the 1950s. It says under there, 1519, Cortes landed in the New World and ordered the destruction of the very ships that safely transported them from the old world to the new. In one step, he took away the safety net of the ships and forced his men to buy into the venture wholeheartedly or perish. It forced them to be innovative given the limited resources that they had with them. So that's not what this creative destruction really means. Creative destruction actually means coming up with something new that will replace maybe what you are actually producing and selling at the moment. And the comments there is, whilst this seems counterproductive, it means that rather than fearing changes in technology and competitions, competitive firms should embrace this and use them to evolve and grow, finding new profit pools and making them rather than resting on their laurels. So that, and Japanese, I think, are pretty good at this. If you get something that works really well, you then get some other group to work together to try and creatively destroy it by something even better. So next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So his argument is simple. Entrepreneurs use innovation to gain advantage. This will work for a while and create monopoly profits. You've gone too fast. Previous slide. Others will come in and destroy these profits, and entrepreneurs will then look for new innovations, and the cycle will repeat. And there's lots of examples. Transistor radios replacing valve radios, CDs replacing vinyl records or mini CDs. And now, of course, streaming through Spotify and other things. Mobile phones replacing that big old phone that you had in the hall of your house. And so it goes on. Creative disruption leads on to the next generation of really big sellers, and they change our lives. So next slide. If we look at this slide, we've got the strategic imperative is an innovation mechanism, what brings it about, and what advantage it gives you. So you've got novelty in the product or the service offering, novelty in the process, the level of complexity, the legal protection of the intellectual property, and a range of other factors. All of these can be manipulated to give strategic advantage. So if you want a strategic advantage in your firm, which everybody does, then you need to employ the various innovation mechanisms in order to achieve that strategic imperative. Next slide. And more mechanisms. The timing is important. The platform that you deal with, the rewriting of the rules when you come up with new things, reconstituting the parts of the process, and then possibly transferring it across different applications and contexts. Next slide. If we look at this, this is done very fast by Zara. And if you read through from top right through to point 5, this is where the Zara creative thinkers of new designs come up with thousands of designs which are very rapidly got onto the market. Typically, you thought of designs as being, this is the fashion for this season and we'll work through this season. Not through Zara. They will change it every week if they find that there's a way of doing it. And they have really encouraged young people to go for almost throwaway fashions because they can get out of fashion within a very short period of time. And it's moved on from just, do we have our dress lengths 1 inch longer or 1 inch shorter this season compared with last season and so forth. Look at what Zara does, and it completely changes it. So what are the drivers of innovation? Next slide, please. Well, all of those can be drivers of innovation. New technology, new laws and regulations, decline in life cycle can make you to come up with new things fast. Changes in consumer behavior, which comes about as well. Social attitudes, things like the planet, which is not going to be livable in unless we have less carbon going into it. So we have to think, how do we create a world that uses less fossil fuels, hence less carbon, and then our children and grandchildren will be able to live in the world. But if we carry on as we are, maybe they won't. So we need a lot of innovation in that area. Architecture change, well, it says think of MP3. Well, we know that this comes into the technology area, really. And of course, the internet down there at the bottom of the list, but it could well be the top of the list because it's probably the strongest driver innovation of the lot. Next slide. Here we've got Tid, who's done our, written our set book, or one of the 2 set books, has come up with this diagram in which he developed a simple model of innovation. The idea is that 3 resources in the organization, creative individuals, the operating functions and activities, and the external linkages and architecture, are all acted on by 3 key forces. These are science and technology, the needs of society, and the inherent development of knowledge in the organization itself. Which really puts in nice diagrammatic form largely what the drivers were that were mentioned in the previous slide. Given these factors, what does an organization have to do to develop new innovative products and services? Well, let's have a look. The next slide will give us a model. Next slide. The process model of innovation. Now here we've got 4 things. The model takes a strategic approach and judges that a company has developed a strategy that aims to take the business towards a key goal using a range of actions. This implies a company can innovate the product itself, and there are these 4 things. It's the 4 Ps, just as you get the 4 Ps of marketing. Here we've got the 4 Ps of innovation, the product itself, the process used to develop the product, its position, and the paradigm, how it sees itself. Thus, IBM, as well as being a product service innovator, changed its paradigm and therefore its position when it sold its personal computing business to Lenovo and focused on consultancy. So we've got those 4 things that lead to innovation, the 4 Ps, namely product, going round from the right, position, process, and paradigm. So that's quite a useful model, and you may find that it's useful when you come to write your assignments. I find using models like that in assignments can really help. Next slide, please. And here's another model. This adopts a similar approach to the Deming wheel, which you'll hear about later, in that it presents a linear feedback model of innovation. The model assumes that the organization is moving through the process on a constant basis, always searching, that's the big one on the left, then selecting, implementing and capturing, and then round in a process again. That's as an integrated process of innovation. Next slide. And here we have another set of circles, which again might be useful. It's dealing with all the people that get involved in innovation and gives some hints towards mapping innovation. Now in lecture 2, the activity of that, you will be dealing with innovation mapping and a process that's developed by Cranfield for that, which is very interesting and which I'll hope you'll use once you get the your groups together. And I've just got a couple before we finish on this particular session. Next slide, please. That makes the point that innovation requires organizational alignment, and it means all the business skills to get out the most of yourself and others, and mapping the way in which it works in your organization is something that should be done through an innovation audit, which is the next slide, in which you answer a variety of questions. Where is innovation coming from in this industry and what's driving it? How should we prepare for it? What are the capabilities and what are the potential blockages? So what new products and services might we come up with? And in order to do that, we audit the organization's innovation capability to deliver on new products and services. And as I say, in session 2, we will be dealing with the innovation audit, which will be very valuable in your seminar. So that leads us to the end of quite a long introduction, and really it is an introduction. Last session, last slide, please. In here, but it's not in groups of 5. We're trying to do it in groups of 10, but actually it'll be nowhere near that at all. Read the assignment brief. So that's the first thing, read the assignment brief. You'll find again the assignment brief on the left-hand side of your page on your internet. And the assignment brief will give you details of what you've actually got to do and know what's required. Each group member should look for a potential firm, and if you can get your groups together, and obviously it's fairly disappointing at the moment because the turnout is appalling. We've only got 16 people, and that's not a very good sign for the future. Obviously, we can't work closely on that and get anywhere in the group sense unless we've got the groups together. Now, it says there, members to assist in the process and act as critical friends to identify potential issues and issues with completion. And the idea was, I'll have the last slide, please. Using the mapping innovation diagram above, add to each segment to illustrate as many of the subtopics as you can that could be included in your chosen company. Now, I'm not slightly, but actually very disappointed with the turnout. I had hoped that we would have, well, somewhere close to 100 people turning up for the sessions, and we've got 16, and we've even lost a few. Well, it's an introductory session, and really it deals with some, I would have said, pretty obvious stuff, and is culled together from many areas, including Trott and Tin&Besant, and it's well, I think what is probably the most valuable way of using your time. I was assuming that you would spend the next 3/4 of an hour actually looking at the activity. In the circumstances, I think we have to move back from that You may spend 5 or 10 minutes doing that at the very end, but I think since we've got quite a lot of people, we've got 16 people, and if I go through those, perhaps we can see whether you cover all of the groups, because I'd like you to spend the next half hour putting together emails to the rest of your group to see whether or not then by Monday we will be able to get some decent groups together. Now, if I go down, I've got participants here. Hang on, I've got a comment here. I would therefore like to join the group of Lewis. Yeah, that's fine by me. Perhaps Mubashir, you can take notes of where people are saying they want to change groups now, and we can get that adjusted by Monday. But if I go through this list, perhaps you could shout out what group you've actually been allocated to at the moment, and we can see whether or not you can get out some requests to your colleagues to see whether or not we're going to be able to get a decent number of people turning up. So I've got Jenny Jain What group were you in, Jenny? Yep, fine. Jenny, you're currently at 11. That's great. Okay, so 11 has got Jenny. So if you could have a look at 11 and send out emails, which will agree what they'll say in a minute, but just see how many of the groups we can actually cover. Ishta Liftikar, what group are you in? Okay, we've got 2 people in group 11. That's good. Well, it's not good, but it's better than 1. Aisha must be there because I've got her name still up. Aisha, are you there? Aisha, Iftikhar, everyone, yes. What does that mean, Aisha? Your name must be on the list, so you must know that I'm suggesting you're in a particular group. Which one were you in? I'm in group 5. Excellent. So Aisha, group 5, good. Aliza and Julian, what group are you in? Group 6, good. Aliza, Angela? Angela, what group? Angela Monning. Group 8, Angela. Annie, Priska, Sarah, that's probably enough. Zabua, I can't even finish it. Which group are you in? Group 6, another one in group 6. So that's Annie. Ching Yi Ho, which group are you in? I don't understand that. Don Zintam Bila. I don't have that on, I don't have you on my list of people present. Ching Yi Ho, group 5. Okay. Ching. Good. Dan Tobias Bonk, I think he left because he'd got to go back to a work meeting. Oh no, he's here, group 11. Excellent. Elnaz Ibrahimi. Elnaz, which group are you in? Do we have Elnaz Ibrahimi? Perhaps you're looking down the list to try and find your group. I'll come back to you. Fatima Karimi, what group are you in? Group 4, okay, group 4, Elnaz. Okay, Fatima, what group are you in, Fatima? Oh, Don, so I joined a bit late. Could you please shed more light on the story about groups? I will do once I've finished going on this list. So remind me to come back to that. So Elnaz, we're on. Fatima we haven't got yet. Fatima, what group are you in? Fatima must be there because she's still in. Here we are. Group 6. Group 6, Fatima. Excellent. Well, that's Lana Khaled Alzia. Currently group 1, would like to move into Lewis's group. What number is Lewis's group? Can you tell me what number his group is? Group 3. Fine. So you want to go to group 3. That's fine. And sorry, that was Lana, yeah? Luvni. Group 7, but would like to change to group 11. That's fine. Okay. 11 is Luvni. Mata Jalad. Mata Jalad, group 5. Mata. And Razia Sultana, group 11. Razia. Okay, 1, 2. So I've got okay. So let me just see what I've got at the moment. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 7. I've got 8. No, 9. No, 10. No, 12. Okay. I'm not sure what true means. Probably relates back to an earlier comment by someone. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will try, I agree with the suggestion that the people who turn up, it's never more than this number in the sessions. Yeah, but it's got to change because a lot of people have been failing, and they've been failing because they haven't been told. What was that? Oh, doesn't matter. Okay. So what is being suggested at the moment, I think, is you're saying that in the previous sessions you've been to, you've never got more than about 20. Could somebody act as, or can people react not by writing chat, but by actually talking? Because if you can hear me, then I could hear you as well. So if you could speak, oh, Don Cintabilla, he's come on the list. What group is he in? Don, can you tell us what group you are there? I have issues with my audio. Well, yeah, yes, I would love to be in a group with my. Yeah, no, I understand that. Okay. Well, I think we should give the other people a chance. There's 2 ways in which we could do it. What we could do is saying, well, the ones that turned up today are the ones that are regulars and that will actually take part in this this module effectively, and just focus on that, and the others, well, just let them do what they'll do, namely probably read the it's usually like that indeed. Yes, well, that's what I'm trying to change. I'm trying to say that it really doesn't work, the teaching, unless we have these meetings, and these meetings will enable you to challenge me and me to challenge you, and for us to sort of move the organization forward in a teaching way, rather than in a well, I'll read it on the internet, and I'll probably not really engage too much. Now, obviously, you guys engage. What I'd like to do to start with, perhaps before Monday, because it's only Thursday. Now, the next session is on Monday. If all of the group leaders that we've agreed with, I mean, I won't say nominated, because if somebody comes up, like say Jenny, and she says she's group whatever, then she's group leader by definition, because there isn't anybody else there. But if you could take the names that you've got in the group and send one email to each of them, emphasizing that we can have an effective group-based team, if you like, class, that could work for larger numbers, or we could have one in which nobody does anything apart from the people who've already been nominated, and we've got less than 20 of them. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to stay that way. If out of the other 80 or so, we can get maybe another 40 or 50, then we've made quite a reasonable bit of progress. Now, if as a result of sending the emails, we get no response at all, then we'll have to probably take the people who do regularly and put them into maybe 2 groups or 3 groups and work on that basis. I'm sorry, somebody was about to make a point. Would they like to speak up? Can we have more than 10 students in a group? Well, at the moment, we're lucky if we get 3 or 4, so it's not really an issue, is it? Can I have some response from the class, because there's quite a lot of you there?
Sir,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, yes.
I joined in a bit late. Could you please shed more light on the backstory of these groups?
Yes, this is Don Zintabilla, is it?
Correct, yes.
Yes. Yeah, well, I will. Firstly, I made the point at the very beginning that a lot of people are failing and having to resit. Now, that is not because of bad teaching. That is because of bad engagement by the students. They may pay a couple of thousand or whatever to join, and they assume, therefore, that they will pass. They won't. They will fail. And it has led to some people a year after they started still not passing their module. And they've not passed their module for perfectly good reasons, that they haven't taken part in the learning process. Now, the learning process is one in which you engage. I made the point that Plato or Confucius and perhaps other guys going back a couple of thousand years made the point, and it's been very clear ever since, that if you just read a lecture, you don't learn anything. If you read a lecture and you have a few PowerPoint slides and bar charts and whatever, you may remember it for maybe a couple of days. But unless you actually do something in relation to the subject you're dealing with, then you won't actually learn anything. And that, of course, has turned out to be the case over the centuries. If I decide that I want to be a driver of a car, I won't really know how to drive a car if I want to just read about driving a car. If I get into the car, I won't know how to do it. I'll have to actually do it. And if you want to become an airline pilot, you have to spend hours and hours in an imitation aeroplane that never takes off the ground, but pretends that it's taking off the ground. And once you can operate okay in that one, then they may let you take over with somebody else sitting next door to you, and eventually you'll go solo. But it's only doing it that will enable you to actually learn anything. Now, the same applies to university learning. Some universities do better than others and are regarded as universities in the top league, and they're the ones that make people do things. Now, I spent most of my life at Oxford University, and it's regarded as one of the best in the world. Now, why is it one of the best in the world? Not because it has the best lecturers, not necessarily because it has the best, most clever students. It's because every week you have a meeting with your tutor and you sit with him and debate a subject on which you have spent a week reading everything you can get on that particular subject, which is expressed as a question. And the tutor debates with you, and at the end of that meeting, I can tell you, you know a bit about things. You spend a week actually reading it, and then you spent an hour with an expert. Well, that makes an awful lot of difference. Now, in many other universities, you turn up at a lot of lectures, and at the end, you may put in some coursework, and you may put in some, you may sit in at the odd exam, but you don't learn anything like as much as you would in Oxford. You only learn that in Oxford because you've been forced to actually spend a week at the end of that week having to be exposed probably to a guy who wrote one of the books, and he's going to challenge you. And as they always say about tutorials, there is no place to hide. And if you can't hide, he will say, well, what about? And if it just gets silence at the other end, he'll know you haven't done the work, and you'll know you haven't done the work, and you also will know that you don't know anything about it. However, you therefore spend the next week doing the work, and you come up with a decent lecture, and it's not perfect, and he then criticizes it and gives you feedback, and then you know something. Now, this is why particular universities get regarded as good and other ones as not so good, and they end up as the bottom of the league table. Now, we have been getting on distance learning, and so have many other distance learning outfits. We have been having the problem that people have been putting very substandard work in, and then they've been annoyed when they failed. But they failed because they didn't do the work, and they didn't do the work because they didn't turn up to the sessions, and so it goes on. And from that you might say, well, that means that distance learning is no good. But that's not true. There's not just the fact they didn't turn up to the lessons, there's also the fact there's a lot of them, and you can't teach more than a certain number of people from one tutor at any one time. It just takes time. So we have the two problems with Magna Carta and this session we're trying to teach. One is we've got a lot of people. We all want to get 115 successfully through their exams, their work, their courses, their CW1 and CW2 and CW3, their assignments. And we also want them to turn up. Now, two of those things can be dealt with quite easily. One is we can divide them into groups, and we can make sure that they do work. And when we put them in groups, they will spend half an hour or 3/4 of an hour debating a particular question with the other members of their group. And when they come back and make a presentation to the plenary session, they'll know what they're talking about because they've been talking about it for the last 3/4 of an hour, not just reading about it on some slides or possibly even in a textbook. So the group problem is overcomes the fact you don't learn. But the other problem of not turning up is something that you don't have because you all turned up, but another 80 or so plus of your colleagues haven't turned up, and that's dreadful. I mean, what is the point in joining a class to get a degree and not actually turning up at the workshops? I agree that since most of you will have work, that is employed work, then you will get used to the idea that you cannot do 100%, and you can therefore go through and see which bits you can and which bits you can't. That's fair enough, so long as you really give it the second highest priority. The highest priority obviously must be your employed work, otherwise you get fired. But after your employed work, this should come next. It should come next before leisure, family, anything. Once you decide you're going to do that, then your family will have to put up with it for a little while whilst you turn up to these sessions, and then you'll do well. I don't believe people's intelligence varies very much, and I believe everybody who'd come on the course is intelligent. I believe they probably all quite like to get the degree as well, or the diploma, wherever they are at the moment. But what they haven't done, as we saw from the lecture, they haven't had the motivation and the engagement to actually turn up and take part. So that's on the background on it. I'm determined, but I can't do it, of course, without the other members of the class. I'm determined to try and get a lot of people. I've been told by people in Magna Carta, you'll never succeed in doing it. Well, if distance learning is to be any good, it has to have that. A number of those serious. Sorry, that went too fast. So you'll need to say it. Can the people who could contribute please talk? Because when it comes up as chat, you have to read it very fast, and it goes again, which is not good. So anybody who's made a chat comment, could they please speak up?
Hi, sir. This is Jenny.
Good. Hi, Jenny.
Yes, so I fully understand what you're talking about. What is the importance of this group thing? But then can we just form a group of students who are kind of actively attending the class so that we can really do stuff and learn something, not with just random groups instead of the random groups?
Yes. We can do that. But I also want to get more people to come. So how do you suggest I get? I agree with you. So, I'll ask you then, can you form a group then? How many people could you form in a group of the people you've got here now?
Oh, I don't know. I have a couple of people I know, maybe so far like 5.
Yeah, well, that's a good start. So if you turn up on Monday with a group of 5, that's fine. That's one group. Oh, are these in your group?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. So Marta,
Yeah.
Louis, and there is Razia and Lana. Yes, these 5 so far.
Does everybody have a list of the people on your screen who were the attendees? Because it would be nice, at least if all of the 17 people that we've got there could be divided into, say, 3 groups, 2 5s, 15, groups of 5 or 6. So can we have a volunteer to get 3 groups out of the people we've got there? So Jenny is going to form a group. Can I have another volunteer for group 2? Come on, let's have it. Several of you came up with being a leader of a group. Let me have one of you. Don, you're interested in it. Will you form a group? I have, Alisa, I have 2 people. Oh, it's gone, you see. Speak, Alisa, talk. So talk to me. Alisa, I know you're there. Talk to me. I don't know what you said because the chat came on and then it went within about 2 seconds. Oh dear, sorry about that. So, okay, write it again and I'll see. I'll try fixing it. Okay, but Alisa will form a group as well. So that's group 2, okay? So Jenny is group 1. And Alisa is group 2. Who's going to do group 3? I have 2 groups in my group 6 in this session. Yep, okay, well, that's a good start, yeah. What about group 5? Who agreed to run group 5? I can't read my own writing. It was before Alisa. Aisha, I think it is it? Who's the leader of group 5? Are you still there? Come on, you're going to have to talk to me. Aisha, yes, I am. You're still there. Okay, so will you talk, Aisha?
Yes, sir, I can speak.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so will you try and create group 3? I mean, the 3rd group?
I'm in the group 5, so I'll send the emails to them. If they appear in the 2nd session, I'll be leading them. But if they won't come, then I have to be in another group.
Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, no, quite. Alitza, and
Okay,
so
sorry guys,
I-
quick question. How do you get your name in any of these groups? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
how do you get your name into the groups? Well, I have just taken a list of the class, which is in alphabetical order, and I have taken people 1 to 10, and then 11 to 20, and then gone right through, so that the group is completely random in the sense that we don't know who knows anybody or anything like that. My concern isn't who's in the groups, though yours will be, of course. It's that we have groups who can all be able to learn with each other. And this is how it works. It's how it works in the best universities. It's the same thing. If we have 5 people in a group, they'll learn quite a bit. If we have 25 people in a group, they won't. It's just the way it goes. So we've got Jenny for group 1, Alitza for group 2, and Aisha for group 3, which is called group 5 from the old one, but you've got 3 people in it, haven't you? So that's a start. See if you can get a couple more. Now there's quite a few more people. That would get us, it wouldn't, I already reached out. Sorry, who signed that? I don't know who wrote that. Can whoever did that speak up, please? Talk to me. Was that everyone that always says? What does it mean? Yes, Elisa. But what are you saying? I've just got Elisa coming up saying everyone. I don't know what that means. But we've got lots of people who have spoken just a little, very little. For instance, let me see. Oh, no, that's group 5. So in group 5, Aisha, I think, has, oh, hang on. Jenny, please add me to your group. Okay. Now, there's quite a few people when we've had this debate who haven't spoken at all. Please speak. I mean, I've got Ibrahim Nazir. I'll join any group that needs. It's going again, you see. If you talk, then I can listen. Ibrahim, yes. What do you want to do? Ibrahim, are you going to join a group?
Yes, sir.
See, good. So everybody must talk. I mean, I talk too much, but that's what I'm paid to do. But you must talk as well. You don't learn unless you talk, actually. And I know we've only got a ridiculously small number of people, but I haven't had talking from 19 people. I've had odd little things that come for about a second or two and then they disappear, and I've often missed it, therefore. So I was talking to, where's Ibrahim gone? Have I lost Ibrahim? Yeah. Oh, yes. Touch your hand. So Ibrahim, yes. Ibrahim, do you want to join a group? Because at the moment you will be in a group, but presumably there may not be some other people in it. I would like, before we finish this session, the introductory session, all introductory sessions are always a bit chaotic because the people don't know each other, and they don't know the lecturers, and the lecturers haven't necessarily got the system to work smoothly, and so on and so forth. So we're making progress. What we've discovered from this is that we've got perhaps about 20 people who turn up. Now, some of those people don't understand punctuality. If it says it starts at 10, it's not 5 past 10, 10 past 10, quarter past 10, it's 10. So if everybody turns up at 5 to 10, then that would be good. So try and be punctual. That's one thing. But of course, the worst thing is if you don't turn up at all, and of course I can't talk to them, you can click on the everyone chat box. Again, that's gone, so I couldn't read it all. Can you bring that one back up? Now, the crazy thing about all of, so you can click on the everyone chat box and see the chat. Oh, can I? Mubashir. Mubashir, are you still there? Mubashir? Have I lost him? He should be there. Mubashir, are you there? I will have to give him a... Ah, there you go. Hi, Mubashir. What's happened to you? Have you disappeared?
Mr. David, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Sorry, somebody's speaking. So who's speaking? Yeah.
My name is Rahul.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Speak on.
Mr. David, my name is Rahul. I'm still getting used to this new platform. I'm still getting used to Blackboard.
So, I know, so am I. So am I. Don't worry.
Sorry, how do I know which group am I in? I haven't joined a group yet.
Right. Well, you can tell what group in theory that you could be in, because at the moment on the slides, there is a group, sorry, there is a list of 115 students, and I have divided them into 12 groups. And which group you're in, what's your second name?
Rahul Rahman, R-A-H-M-A-N.
Right, let me have a look then. Should be able. Oh, Mubashir, if you've got connectivity problems, I can leave your phone on and talk to you through the phone, can't I? Yeah, okay. Can you, we've got Rahul Raman, who wants to know what group he's in, and you'll have to move because it's your slides that we've got up on. So can you move down to the R's? We'll see what group he's in. PQR. Raman, there we go.
Yep.
Yes.
Number 19.
Yes, your group 10, group 10.
Group 9.
I can see group 10. Group Rahul Raman. Oh, you're right. Yes, you're the bottom. Oh, there's two. There's Salman Rahman and Rahul Raman. Yes, you're group 9. That's true. But you're the only person, I think, from group 9 at the moment. Now, you've only just joined, as you say. Oh, we've got another one. Kensha Nept. That would be. Okay.
Hello, sir.
What about me? What about you?
Hello, sir.
Yes, now I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, my name is Kausar. I'm also from Group 9.
Oh, good. So that's the start. So can you, between you, create a group? So let's say that Rahul Raman is the leader for the moment. Could be either, but it doesn't really matter. So we've got possibly 4 groups there. We've got Jenny, we've got Alisa, we've got Aisha, and we've got Rahul. Okay, so that's 4 groups. Now, I should mention to people who've only just joined that we've got a very poor turnout, and I've been told by one of your people present that that's fairly typical of the 3 cohorts we've got. Well, we've got to shake them up and change them because it's not good. I'll bet you there were quite a lot of people will have failed their coursework. However, we must get a lot of the other ones to turn up. And well, what I've decided to do to start with, and I think with the agreement of the group, is that we create out of the 20 roughly people that we've got 4 groups of maybe 5. Now, between you all have your own emails on that class list. If you can organize the list so that we have by Monday, and it's going to be Monday because we're not meeting on Friday, it's got to be Monday, and we have got to have 4 groups of 5 by Monday. That will mean that we can get the group session going. But at the same time, I don't want to give up on trying to get the others to actually turn up. So I think you will have enough, Jenny, Alisa, Aisha, and Rahul. If you can just concentrate on getting 5 people in your group, 5 or 6, I don't mind how many, but you know, as many as you can, aim at 5 or 6, then that's plenty. And we will then circulate Mubashir and I. All the others, the sooner you can tell me who yours are, then we won't necessarily send you the thing because we know you'll turn up. But for the people who haven't, we will probably put an announcement out anyway, and it'll go as an email as well. I think that's how the thing works. So yes, if I can just ask you four, Jenny, Alisa, Aisha, and Rahul, unless I can get one more perhaps volunteer to try and create a group.
Excuse, sir.
Yes, please.
I'm Asha speaking.
Yes.
I was in group 5 with 10 people. I would love to share them email, but later on, if they wouldn't reply me back, I would be on Monday. You can share this list of groups so I can mail them.
Yes.
And then after later, if they don't contact me, I can stick to another group as well.
Yes. Yes. And in group 5, yeah, you did have, there were 3 people in group 5, and I think, I can't read my own writing very well. Who volunteered to be leader of group 5? It began with an A. Was it Aisha or Ali?
Yeah, it was me.
It was Aisha. I was
Yeah.
spelling. Yes. Well, okay. So we're fine on that, aren't we? We know what we're doing. Let me just repeat where I think we've ended up. We've ended up with 4 people so far. I'll just try and get a 5th, but at least I've got 4, which is Jenny, Alisa, Aisha, and Rahul. All you 4 are going to take your friends who may even be not here, or somebody from the 20 that hopefully is on a list that's on your laptop, and everybody's presumably got that list. Do they have that list, Bashir? Can they see the attendees as well? Mubashir? Oh, muted. Can you unmute Mubashir on your phone? Mubashir?
Yeah, hello, David.
Can you hear me? Well, I can hear you, but you became muted for some reason. Did you hear anything that I said? Are you up with me?
Because there is so much distortion, some of the things I cannot hear.
Right.
But please let me know if I can help in terms of anything related to the Blackboard. Yeah.
Yes, and well, the question I asked was, we have a list there of 21 people. Does that appear on everybody else's laptop as well? In other words,
yes, it should appear. I think it should appear for participants. They can see that next to the chat icon, there is a attendees icon.
Yes, there is.
And I think they can view.
Okay. Now, attendees, then, you have a list of everybody who's here, and we have a 21 written there, which is fine. If you 4, can I get a 5th? I mean, Ibrahim, could you try and form a group? I'm getting great difficulty in getting them to talk. I don't know why. So there's some attendees. So
can you see
yes, that's good.
So can you...
That's useful. Ibrahim, can you respond to me? I'm not getting him to respond.
So David, basically there are 19 participants.
Yes.
Combining us, it makes 21. Me and you combined, it's 21 attendees.
Okay, so we got 19. Yes.
19 basically participants.
Yes. Well, I've got Jenny, Alisa, Aisha, and Rahul to agree to form groups of 5, and presumably all of those 5 will come from those attendees. Now, I don't know why I'm having trouble in getting people talking. They put up. But
David,
if I
can I recommend one thing?
Yes.
Can the group leaders just write the name of the groups in the chat box so that we have documented the groups
Yes.
on our side.
Yes.
So it will be easier for us.
It will.
We can just copy it off and make a Excel for that.
Yes.
So if students can hear me through the phone, can you please make groups in the chat? Mention the group leader should mention the 4 or 5 members of their group who are mentioned who are participants of the session today.
Now, did you all hear that? Did you all hear that attendees, so to speak, from Mubashir? Please, somebody say something. I can't operate with you unless you'll talk to me.
Yes, yes, we understood.
Yes, we did hear that. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good. So you can all speak. Now, if you could all speak, if you could carry on speaking, we can then relate, but we can't really relate through chat. Sometimes it's useful to put chat, but it's mostly better if you can talk. Will you make a determination that everyone will speak, please? Because without that, it becomes jolly hard work. Okay, Alisa, but if you can fix it, that'd be great. I think Mubashir has a problem with his microphone as well, but that can be sorted out by Monday. But there's also a motivational factor. Group leaders, please make groups, says Mubashir. Well, that's what he said. And it was much more effective when he said it rather than he wrote it, wasn't it? So just try and talk, please, because it's very difficult to run a course. Again, it's face to face. If people are sitting there, you can bear down on them and make sure they talk. But I can't make you talk because you could be in a country 1,000 miles away. So you must just, here we are, Jenny. Ah, good. Jenny has done it already. If you could do what Jenny has just done, give a list for Mubashir of your group. Alitza and Aisha, do you have any that, you know, the 4th one? I don't know who's put that up. Probably, have you put that up, Mubashir? Was trying to talk.
Yeah, I'm just, sorry.
Good. No, we're getting there. We're getting there. We've got Jenny's group, which is a good start. Can we have whoever you've got from Alitza, Aisha, and Rahul? Ah, okay. So we've got good group for. Okay, are you getting these, Mubashir? No, you can't see. Yeah, you can. You've got your.
I can see the screen. I can see the screen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay, so you've got. I was in group 11. Okay, well, you can now be group. Oh, hang on.
So Rahul can have 2 people with him. Rahul says is in group 4, so Rahul can become a group leader. Or
yes. Well, now Rahul is a group leader. He just needs 3 more people. Litsa, we've got. She came up, but then she got lost again. If I'm going to have to fight, yes. If I'm going to have to fight on this chat thing, because it seems it's going to take people quite a long time to have the confidence to talk. Rahul, you can add another one. You said there's a thing that can make chat stay up longer. Can you do that, Mubashir?
Yep. You just press the icon next to the attendees.
Yes. To the left or the right?
To the left.
Okay.
The first icon.
Yes.
The first icon.
Right. So
now
what?
You can see the chats. You can go scroll up and
yes.
you can see the chat.
Yes, I can. That's good. Okay, so yes, please, yes. But the new chats aren't coming up on the right-hand side under chat for some reason.
They keep on updating.
Do they? Okay. Well, one came and left there. We've got OK Angela T.Y. And I'm not sure what that's saying. So I think everybody who is leading a group at the moment is collecting people, as I understand it, which is good.
Yeah, that's
so long
my
as,
understanding.
Yeah, that's fine.
We have one group already. We have got the names for that.
We've got Jenny's group. Yep.
Yeah, Jenny's group is there.
Yep.
So it's just that anyone, whoever is the leader, should gather 4 people with them so they can have at least a group of 4 people who can discuss.
Yes. Ideally 5. But that's fine. That's moving.
5.
Yeah.
Ideally 5 if you can.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's moving. Let's leave you for a few minutes to do that. The other thing, Mubashir, talking to you now, How do you think we should approach the other 80?
Well, we can basically send out emails and announcements, and maybe announcement related to the.
Yeah, I think an announcement is the thing, yes. Because the announcement has a thing where you can say also an email, so that if an announcement goes out that comes up on Blackboard, it'll also go into their email, won't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you and I will construct an announcement this afternoon, I guess.
Yeah.
Another one come up. Yep. The chat is not updating for some reason. We haven't had any updating. It's the last bit of
Can you
chat.
see the last chat is, will the list of emails be sent? Yes, it will be uploaded on the Blackboard.
Yes.
You can see the list.
Yes.
After the class, you can see the list.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely no problem. Good. So what, hang on, I'm in group 5. Yes. Amongst the 15 or 20 of you, whatever, carry on talking to each other and organize yourselves into appropriate size groups. If we've only got 20, we're only going to get 4 groups at the moment. So we'll stay like that for the moment. I think that's probably all we can sensibly do at the moment. I will leave it on so that you can talk to each other for the next quarter of an hour, but I don't think we can contribute anything anymore. Talking to attendees, one, please talk to me at the next meeting, because the chat is very stilted as a way of interacting. So, talking is not, it's quite common amongst people, but probably more common if you're in a face-to-face thing. Maybe people just don't like talking on Blackboard. I don't know why, but anyway, so we'll try and free up people's contributions in that way. I mean, some of you like Jenny are quite happy to talk, but others like Ibrahim won't say very much. Well, why not? It's no big deal. So I think that's probably, please note that the family name Angelica. It's a mistake, is it? Yeah, well, I'm sure there will be mistakes. Good, thanks. So we'll leave it up so that you can all interact together until 12:30, when I think the time runs out on the on Blackboard, and maybe we can leave it. I will try and put together an announcement at the moment, and maybe I can talk to you, Mubashir, in perhaps at 12:30, and we can chart the way forward. But what they did say, I don't know. Yeah, good. I don't know whether you were there or you could hear, but I think it was Jenny probably said that to get 20 out of them is pretty typical. So it's not unusual, but we can't leave it that way. We've got to really drive them into doing this if they're going to be on the course, because they won't learn anything just listening to. Yeah, it won't work. But we've got 4 groups, so that's looking at it in a positive way. Okay, so I'll stop either talking to the groups, because they'll be talking to each other, I think, to be trying to arrange their groups, and I'll talk to you in about a quarter of an hour, Mubashir, and I'll start writing out an announcement at the moment. Okay, well, thanks very much for coming, guys, because the fact the others doesn't reflect badly on you, let's face it. The only bad thing for you is you're not talking enough, you're chatting too much in writing. Nothing wrong with confirming things in chat, but if we can interact verbally, it will help through the rest of the course, and we've got 10 weeks working together, so we'll go from there. Yeah, thanks, Aisha. Good to meet you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
All right. Finally connected.
Oh, you're back reconnected. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I can cross you off
yeah,
from
yeah,
WhatsApp. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Okay, will you take over and talk to them? Because I'm just going to
Yeah,
start writing this
yeah,
announcement.
sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll just talk to them.
Yep.
Perfect. So, everyone, I just wanted to make an announcement basically. So, all of you can see the participants in the group, right? Whoever the participants in the lecture, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So, try making a group out of these participants who are available right now. We already have one group. So if you can make two more groups right now, 2 to 3 more groups right now with these participants, uh, that would be great. Like you can see the names here. I've shared the list with you. Like this, you can see the names of students who are here. So might as well just make a group out of it. Who are the other leaders except Jenny? Jenny has mentioned her group, right? So who other?
Jenny, Alitza, Aisha, and Rahul.
All right.
And they're all on that list of people there. I think Alisa
Yeah,
is number 3 down there.
yeah, yeah.
Rahul is about number 20. And Aisha, oh, I've lost him. Where's Aisha? Oh, yeah, Aisha is about number 3, I think.
Yeah, 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 I
Yeah.
can see that. So
Yes.
it's just that the team leaders, please, just write the names of the group members in the chat, so we can just make the groups in this session today. You know, it will be easier for us on Monday to start off with a fresh session. Lewis, you've raised your hand. Can you ask what you're asking? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Mubashir. So, a quick
Yeah.
question: when will the new groups be created within Blackboard? Will that be today, or will it be just ready for Monday's lesson?
So basically, ideally, we wanted to start from today, but we don't have that many people in the lecture today. But I already formed the groups for all of you guys based on the spreadsheet which was shared earlier. Ideally, we would have started with all these groups today, but unfortunately, as we don't have that many people, so we need to readjust the groups. So for
That's right.
that, I'm requesting you that by this evening, if you can send me the name of the groups, especially the leaders, whoever the leaders are. You just need to mention that you are part of this group, and at least four to five people in a group.
Yeah.
You can,
I'm already in a group with Jenny and Marta because we already know each other.
all right. That's
So
perfect.
I guess yeah. So I guess my question was that the groups will be created based on the feedback from today's lesson, and they'll be ready
Yeah,
for the lesson on Monday. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Rahul, can you, you're a group leader as well.
Yeah, Mubashir,
Can
I was
you,
thinking there are two other students that I know that are supposed to be in
yeah,
class today, but they're not. So I guess I'll try and reach out for them. So by Monday,
so,
we can
so,
have a group of
so,
4 people.
can you mention the names of those people in the chat so I could just make a note of it?
Sure.
All right, Eliza, you've
Two people from here, Raihan and Saifullah, they're not here in class today, but I guess I can send them a message.
give me a group. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I have a question. Can you tell me that which time the class will start on Monday?
10 o'clock. It's always
Same.
at 10 o'clock. Read the class, read the course outline. It has all of the stuff you need. Just simplistically, it's always Monday and Thursday, and always 10 o'clock to 12:30.
Sir, is there any possibility to change the time?
I didn't hear that. Is there any?
Possibility to change the time schedule?
Well, why? What do you have problems with?
Well, the times that we have in these classes is time that I'm supposed to report for work.
Sorry, I can't understand what the issue is. What do you have problems with?
I'm saying
me.
that the time schedule is the same time that I have to report for duty at work.
But you were at this. You have what country are you in?
I'm in South Africa.
Yeah, I know. How many hours different is that from UK?
It's like an hour different now.
I see. So it's 9 o'clock your time, is it? What time is it with you at the moment? I'm not getting a reply.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Previously, with the previous model, we're having classes at 1500 UK time, which worked a lot better for a lot of students. I'm sure they can stand in agreement.
Right. Well, I have no problem with 1500. As I would have no problem with that. But what about the rest of the class? If they're all still there, can you react to the student who's just made that point? I would be happy to make it 1500 if that's more convenient.
Yeah, I think, guys, if we're all in agreement, if we can push the time schedule from 10 to 1500 UK time, please raise your hands
Yes,
or
raise your
dispute if
hand.
you can.
That's right. Can you do that? Have they raised their hands? I haven't got it. Mubashir, you're there still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you following this discussion about timing?
I am following, but I don't see any hands raised for this.
And
So,
that's the problem. You see, how come they're there? So why don't people react?
so
Because
there's
I
not
guess,
one.
I guess the other question is that does that time suit everybody else? I mean, that could be the
yes,
potential. That could be a potential why people haven't raised their hand. So for me myself, I'm a full-time worker. I work in the UK. For me, that time doesn't suit my calendar for work. So
Hence why we're saying that rather suggest a time and then we can conclude on that. We're not
yeah,
enforcing the 1500 on everybody.
no,
well, hang on. If we shift it to 1500, then we are enforcing it on anyone. At the moment, I mean, if 20 people will suddenly could all 20 say yes, 1500's okay, and if we got 18, then we'd have done pretty well. And we know that we can only guarantee 20 people actually attending now. Hopefully, we'll get some more in result of the announcement. But nevertheless, I need to know what the feeling is of the 20. Unless you all respond rapidly by giving me some information, then I can't know, can I? I know there's one guy in South Africa who wants to start at 1500, and then another one who's in UK who doesn't. But there's 18, and I have no idea what they want.
So Alisa is saying 10 a.m. works for her. Then they've got Lanvi. 3 would be probably better. So there's a mixed response. There is a mixed response.
That's right, but we've got no response from all the others. Why not? Why aren't people just saying yes, yes, no, no, or whatever?
Aisha Iftikhar is saying 10 a.m. is good for her. So, yeah.
What's the best way to, I mean, it's good that these guys have turned up, but they won't talk, so we can't interact very easily. Some of them I can. If I'd just like to have a list of people who say yes, 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 yes to 1500, or if no, then what is a convenient time? And if it was possible to get all 20 to agree to a time, I'm sure we could agree now, but we must do that today because we can't play around with it. It would be too confusing.
Just wait a second.
So could we get everybody, please, to respond to this?
So I've created a poll. So everyone, please either vote yes or no for this. I've started a poll right now.
Good.
So we could see that So according to the poll, I've got a total of 7 responses, out of which 6 people say 10 a.m. is a good time, and 1 person says no, it's not.
Right.
Not so it's
But why
updating.
why won't the others respond? It seems odd.
I'm waiting for their update. So now 3 people are saying 10 is not a perfect time, but 7 people are saying 10 is a perfect time.
Well, if we can get everybody to respond, I mean, they must all have a view. It's ridiculous that they don't. Then we can take a decision, but we can't take a decision on 7 people, can we?
Yeah. So yeah,
I've just messaged Jenny, and she said 3 p.m. works best for her. And
yeah,
I'm waiting.
Can we just get it? Yep.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for see if Marta is going to respond to me as well.
so there are no more responses, David. So there's
But there isn't a powerful enough groundswell to change anything on that basis, is there?
Yeah.
I think we stay with 10 a.m. because if somebody hasn't responded, then maybe we can't assume anything, can we? What I find extraordinary is that they won't talk, or they won't.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We can't know what they think unless they do.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've run out of time now anyway, so we'll see you all Monday, but watch the announcements because obviously we're going to do things before then. So I'll just go out of that and maybe Mubashir, we can just start talking on WhatsApp. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
sure.
end the session. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.